Homeless boy returns millionaire's wallet, but when he sees his mother's picture inside. What if a billionaire's split-second brake check on a lonely road revealed more than just a near miss? He expected roadside danger, but instead found himself staring into the hauntingly familiar eyes of the mother who vanished without a trace 30 years ago, only she has no memory of him or herself. Prepare for the shocking family secret behind her disappearance. Like this story, subscribe for more, and listen now to uncover the unbelievable truth. The Los Angeles sun beat down relentlessly on the cracked pavement, reflecting heat and indifference. For 12-year-old Leo, the relentless sunshine was just another feature of the landscape. He navigated daily the sprawling, unforgiving streets that had become his home over the past year. He moved with a wariness that belied his age, his senses constantly alert, scanning alleys for potential shelter, gauging the ebb and flow of pedestrians for moments of opportunity or danger, his small frame perpetually braced against a world that offered little comfort. Life hadn't always been this harsh. Until a year ago, there had been Mom, Clara. Her name was a soft ache in his chest, a memory of warmth in the midst of the pervasive chill of his current existence. She had been his whole world, fierce, loving, perpetually tired, but always there. They had lived in a series of small, rented rooms in cheaper neighborhoods, moving frequently, Clara working long hours cleaning houses or waitressing, her cough worsening over time, especially during damp winters. She rarely spoke of her past, deflecting Leo's questions about grandparents or other family with vague sadness, saying only that they had argued long ago and gone their separate ways. She never mentioned his father, except once, cryptically, saying he likely never knew Leo existed and came from a world very different from theirs. Then, last spring, the cough had become pneumonia. The brief hospital stay drained Clara's meager savings and left her weaker than ever. She died just weeks later in their small apartment, leaving Leo utterly alone. There was a brief, terrifying stint in an overcrowded county group home, noisy, chaotic, impersonal, where he felt more lost than ever. Seeing no kindness, no future, only the prospect of being swallowed by the system. Leo slipped away one night and never looked back. He'd been on his own ever since, surviving on wits, luck, and the occasional kindness of strangers. He learned the rhythm of the streets, where to find discarded but edible food behind restaurants, which park benches were relatively safe for a few hours' sleep, how to blend into the background, to be invisible. He became adept at reading people, sensing danger, hoarding small treasures, a half-used bar of soap, a discarded paperback novel, a worn but torn scarf found in a bin. His most precious possession, kept folded carefully inside a small plastic bag tucked deep within his worn jacket pocket, was a photograph. It was creased, blurry, the colors faded, showing his mother, younger, smiling, her arm linked with someone just outside the frame. It was the only picture he had of her. He found it tucked in her worn wallet after she died. That wallet, made of soft, dark leather, was something Clara had always treasured, though Leo didn't know why. He remembered her holding it sometimes, tracing the worn edges with her finger, a distant, sad look in her eyes. He lost the wallet itself during his escape from the group home, but he'd managed to save the photo, his one tangible link to the love that had once defined his world. He looked at it every night before trying to sleep, whispering good night to the smiling face, clinging to the fading memory of her voice, her touch. Despite the harshness of his reality, a core of innate decency remained within Leo. Clara had instilled in him a strong sense of right and wrong, even when life offered every reason to abandon it. He scrounged, he scavenged, sometimes he even begged when hunger gnawed too painfully, but he never stole. Honesty, his mother had often said, was a currency that never lost its value, even when you had nothing else. It was a principle Leo clung to, a small piece of her legacy he carried alongside the faded photograph. On this particular sweltering afternoon, that principle was about to intersect with a life unimaginably different from his own. Nathaniel Hart surveyed the bustling street from the revolving doors of the gleaming downtown Los Angeles skyscraper that housed the West Coast headquarters of Hart Properties. His expression was impassive, revealing none of the satisfaction he felt after closing a complex, multi-million-dollar deal, nor the faint headache throbbing behind his temples from hours of tense negotiation. At 52, Nathaniel was at the pinnacle of his career. He had taken his father's modest commercial real estate firm and transformed it into a sprawling empire of office towers, luxury condos, and sprawling retail developments across the country. He commanded respect, wielded enormous influence, and lived a life of curated luxury penthouse apartment, private jet, bespoke suits, a different European sports car for every day of the week. Yet, for all his success, a persistent loneliness shadowed him. His marriage had ended amicably years ago, childless. His social life consisted mostly of obligatory industry events and charity galas. His work was his life, his refuge. He poured his formidable energy into acquiring properties, analyzing market trends, outmaneuvering competitors, the intricate dance of high-stakes real estate. It filled his days, but it didn't fill the quiet void within him, a void that often echoed with the ghost of his younger sister, Clara. 15 years. It felt like another lifetime. Clara had been the artist, the free spirit in their pragmatic, driven family. Nathaniel, older by 5 years and already being groomed to take over the business, had tried to guide her, or as he now admitted in rare moments of introspection, control her. He disapproved of her friends, her aspirations to be a painter, her refusal to consider the advantageous marriage alliances their parents favored. He especially disliked the intense, brooding musician she had fallen for. Their arguments had escalated, culminating in a final, bitter fight where Nathaniel, echoing their parents' disappointment, had accused her of throwing her life away, of being naive and irresponsible. Clara, deeply hurt and fiercely independent, had stormed out, declaring she was cutting ties with him and the suffocating expectations of the Hart family forever. And she had. She vanished from their lives, leaving no forwarding address, refusing all contact. Nathaniel, caught between guilt and anger, eventually let her go, telling himself she had made her choice. He buried his regret under layers of work and success, the subject of Clara becoming another closed door in his carefully compartmentalized life. Lost in these fleeting, uncomfortable thoughts as he navigated the crowded sidewalk towards his waiting car, Nathaniel didn't notice the slight jostle from a hurried passerby, didn't feel the heavy, custom-made leather wallet slip from the inner pocket of his suit jacket and fall silently onto the concrete. He continued walking, his mind already on the next meeting, the next deal. A few yards behind him, Leo saw it happen. He saw the wallet fall, saw the well-dressed man continue walking, oblivious. The wallet lay on the sidewalk, thick and expensive-looking. Leo's first instinct, born of street survival, was a quick calculation that wallet likely held more cash than he'd seen in months. Enough for food, maybe even a night in a cheap motel room, a brief respite from the constant insecurity. His stomach rumbled. But then Clara's voice echoed in his memory. Honesty, Leo. It's all we truly own. He hesitated for only a fraction of a second. Scooping up the heavy wallet, he broke into a run, dodging pedestrians, his eyes fixed on the back of the tall man in the expensive suit who was now nearing a sleek black sedan parked at the curb, a driver holding the door open. "Mister! Hey, mister!" Leo called out, his voice thin but carrying over the street noise. He pushed through the last few people, arriving breathless just as Nathaniel was about to get into the car. "Mister, you dropped this." Nathaniel turned, surprised, annoyance briefly flickering across his features at the interruption, then shifting to surprise as he saw the young, ragged boy holding out his wallet. He instinctively patted his jacket pocket, finding it empty. "Well, I'll be..." Nathaniel took the wallet, quickly checking inside. Cards, cash, everything seemed intact. He looked down at the boy, skinny, dirty, clearly homeless, yet holding himself with a surprising directness. "Thank you, son. That was very honest of you. I didn't even realize it was gone." Relief washed over him. Replacing the cards and IDs would have been a significant hassle. He reached into the wallet, pulling out a thick wad of bills. "Here," he said, peeling off several $100 bills. "For your trouble and your honesty." Leo's eyes widened slightly at the sight of the money, a fortune in his world, but he instinctively shook his head, taking a step back. "No, thank you, mister," Leo said, his voice quiet but firm. His gaze, however, lingered on the wallet still open in Nathaniel's hand. "I don't need a reward. Glad I could help." Nathaniel paused, genuinely surprised. He was accustomed to a world where every action had a price, where favors were transactional. This boy, who clearly had nothing, was refusing a substantial amount of money simply for doing the right thing. Intrigued, Nathaniel studied him more closely. Beneath the grime and the worn clothes, there was an intelligence in the boy's eyes, a quiet dignity that seemed out of place with his circumstances. "Are you sure?" Nathaniel pressed gently. "That's very admirable, but surely there's something I can do? Buy you a meal?" Leo hesitated, glancing down at the wallet again. "Well," he began shyly, "I don't want your money, sir. But that wallet, it looks just like one my mom used to have. Same dark leather, same little buckle thingy." He looked up at Nathaniel, his expression earnest. Could I just look inside it for a second? Just to see?" Nathaniel blinked, taken aback by the unusual request. It was strangely personal, yet delivered with such guileless sincerity. Why would a homeless boy care about the design of his wallet? Still, the boy had earned his gratitude, and his curiosity was piqued. "My wallet?" he confirmed, then shrugged slightly. "All right, sure." He held the wallet open again, angling it so Leo could see inside without actually handing it over. Leo leaned closer, his eyes scanning the contents with an almost reverent curiosity. He noted the array of platinum credit cards, the thick stack of $100 bills, symbols of a world utterly alien to him. He carefully lifted the flap covering the card slots, peering into the pockets beneath. And then he froze. Tucked into a clear plastic sleeve behind the driver's license was a small photograph. It was slightly faded but still clear, a picture of a young woman in her early 20s, perhaps, with curly brown hair framing a heart-shaped face and bright, hopeful blue eyes that seemed to smile directly at the camera. Leo's breath hitched. His hand flew to the inner pocket of his own worn jacket, fumbling inside the protective plastic bag. He pulled out his own treasured photograph, creased, blurred, edges softened from years of handling. He held it up beside the photo in Nathaniel's wallet. They weren't identical prints, but the subject was undeniably the same woman. Captured perhaps moments apart on the same day, years ago. The same smile, the same light in her eyes, the same distinctive way a stray curl fell across her forehead. "That's," Leo whispered, his voice trembling, pointing a shaky finger at the photo in Nathaniel's wallet. "That's her. That's my mom, Clara." He looked up at Nathaniel, his young face a mask of bewildered shock and dawning, impossible hope. "Mr. Y, why do you have a picture of my mom?" Nathaniel stared, dumbfounded. From a photo in his wallet, a picture of his long-lost sister, Clara, taken during her sophomore year of college. A photo he'd recently unearthed from an old box and tucked into his wallet on a wave of nostalgic melancholy to the identical face staring up from the tattered print in the boy's hand. And then he looked, truly looked, at the boy himself. He saw the shape of his face beneath the grime. He saw the stubborn curl of his brown hair, so like Clara's, so like his own family's. And he saw the eyes. Not just blue, but that specific, intense shade of sapphire blue. Hart family eyes. Clara's eyes. His eyes. The crowded sidewalk seemed to melt away. The city noise faded to a dull roar. Nathaniel felt a dizzying sense of vertigo, as if the ground had dropped out from beneath him. Clara. This boy's mother. This boy with hard eyes. The timeline crashed into his mind with brutal clarity. Clara left 15 years ago. This boy, Leo, was 12. Could it be? Had Clara been pregnant when she left? Had she hinted at it during that final, bitter argument? And had he, in his youthful arrogance and anger, dismissed it? He remembered her tearful accusations, her desperate pleas for him to understand her need for independence, her rejection of the life and the husband he and their parents were trying to force upon her. Had there been more? Something he had willfully ignored? "Your mother," Nathaniel struggled to speak, his throat tight, his own eyes mirroring the shock in Leo's. Her name was Clara Hart? Leo nodded vigorously. "Clara Maeve Hart," he confirmed, supplying the middle name Nathaniel had almost forgotten. "She died last year. Pneumonia. She always said she had a brother. Someone she argued with a long time ago." Leo looked down at the photo again, then back up at Nathaniel, his expression pleading. Was that you, mister?" Nathaniel felt the blood drain from his face. Brother. She had told her son about him, even after everything. And she had given her son his family name. Hart. He dropped to one knee on the sidewalk, oblivious to the stares of passers-by, bringing himself level with the boy. He reached out, his hand trembling, and gently touched Leo's shoulder. The connection felt electric, undeniable. "Yes, Leo," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion he hadn't felt in decades. Clara was my sister. My younger sister." He looked deep into the boy's startled blue eyes, seeing his sister's legacy, his own bloodline, staring back at him from the face of a homeless child. "And that makes me your uncle." The word felt inadequate, yet momentous. Uncle. Family. A connection he thought severed forever, suddenly, miraculously resurrected on a busy city street corner, all because of a dropped wallet and a boy's unexpected honesty. The shock was immense, but beneath it, something else began to stir, a profound, aching sense of responsibility and the dawning, devastating weight of 15 lost years. Uncle. The word hung in the air between them, heavy with implications Leo couldn't fully grasp, but Nathaniel felt with the force of a physical blow. His sister's son, standing before him, orphaned, homeless, clutching a faded photograph as his only link to a family he never knew existed. Nathaniel's mind raced, replaying that final, ugly argument with Clara 15 years ago. Her defiance, her tears, his own harsh words fueled by youthful arrogance and misguided loyalty to their parents' ambitions. Had she tried to tell him then? Had there been a hint about a pregnancy lost amidst the anger and accusations? He couldn't be sure, the memory blurred by time and guilt, but the possibility clawed at him. He looked at Leo, truly looked at him, seeing past the grime and ragged clothes to the boy beneath. He saw Clara's stubborn chin, The familiar heart-blue eyes filled with a mixture of shock, hope, and the ingrained wariness of the street. He saw a resilience that spoke of unimaginable hardship, coupled with the innate honesty that had led him back to Nathaniel in the first place. This wasn't just a nephew. This was Clara's legacy, a living, breathing piece of his lost sister. "Leo," Nathaniel said, his voice still thick but steadier now, infused with a new, urgent purpose. "Your mother, did she ever talk about your father?" Leo shook his head, looking down at his worn sneakers. "Not really. Just once. She said he probably didn't know about me. Said he came from a different world. She seemed sad when she said it." He looked up again. "Did you know him?" Nathaniel felt another pang of guilt. Clara had likely loved Leo's father, perhaps the musician Nathaniel had so vehemently disapproved of, or someone else entirely. But she had clearly felt unable to rely on him or connect him with her family. "No, Leo," he admitted softly. "I didn't. Your mother and we weren't speaking when she left. I made some terrible mistakes." He took a deep breath. "But that doesn't matter now. What matters is you. Your family. My family. And you shouldn't be out here alone." He stood up, making a decision with the swift certainty that characterized his business dealings. "Come with me, Leo. Right now." Leo looked hesitant, glancing nervously back towards the crowded street, his familiar territory. "Where?" "Somewhere safe," Nathaniel assured him. "Somewhere warm. We'll get you some food, some clean clothes, and then we'll figure things out. Together. I promise." He extended his hand. Leo looked at Nathaniel's outstretched hand, then up at his face-to-face that mirrored his mother's photo, the eyes that looked so much like his own. After a moment's hesitation, filled with a lifetime's worth of yearning for belonging, he placed his small, grimy hand into Nathaniel's larger one. Nathaniel led Leo to the waiting car, instructing his bewildered driver, Miguel, simply to drive, needing a moment to think. He made a call first to his executive assistant, issuing rapid, discreet instructions. Cancel his afternoon schedule, arrange for a suite at a secure, high-end residential hotel, contact a specific pediatrician for an urgent, confidential consultation, and source new clothes and essentials for a 12-year-old boy immediately. Next, he called his personal lawyer, initiating the complex process of establishing guardianship, requiring DNA confirmation and navigating the Child Protective Services system, emphasizing speed and discretion above all else. While Nathaniel made calls, Leo sat silently in the luxurious car, alternately staring out the window at the passing city and stealing glances at the man beside him, his uncle. It felt unreal, like a dream he might wake up from at any moment. Food, clean clothes, a safe place to sleep, family? It was almost too much to hope for. Their first stop was a quiet, upscale restaurant where Nathaniel ordered them both hearty meals. He watched Leo eat, noting the boy's attempt at manners despite his obvious hunger. The way he carefully guarded his backpack containing his few possessions, including the precious photo. Nathaniel began asking gentle questions, learning about Leo's life with Clara, her illness, the horrible group home, his years surviving on the streets. Each detail twisted the knife of guilt deeper in Nathaniel's gut. He, in his penthouse overlooking the city, had been oblivious while his sister's child endured such hardship. After the meal and a stop at a high-end department store where Leo was outfitted with several changes of comfortable new clothes, shoes, and toiletries, a process that clearly overwhelmed the boy, they arrived at the residential hotel. The suite was spacious and anonymous, providing comfort without the intimidation of Nathaniel's own home. The pediatrician arrived, examining Leo gently, diagnosing malnutrition and exhaustion, but no serious immediate illnesses, prescribing rest, vitamins, and nutritious food. That evening, sitting awkwardly in the hotel suite's living room, Nathaniel tried to bridge the gap further. He pulled out his own wallet again, showing Leo the photo of Clara more clearly. She was so full of life, he said softly, sharing a happy memory from their childhood before their parents' expectations had driven a wedge between them. She loved to paint. She saw beauty everywhere. Leo listened intently, his eyes shining. He slowly pulled out his own photo again. "She looks happy here," he murmured, tracing her smile. She wasn't always happy later. She coughed a lot and worried. Nathaniel reached out, placing a hand on Leo's shoulder. "I wish I had known, Leo. I wish I could have helped her." "Helped you?" His voice was thick with regret. "I can't change the past, but I promise you, from this moment on, you won't face anything alone. I'm here. I'm your family." Leo looked up at him, a flicker of trust beginning to dawn in his wary blue eyes. "Uncle Nathaniel?" He tested the name. "Yes, Leo," Nathaniel confirmed, his heart swelling. "Uncle Nathaniel." The connection, severed for 15 years, was beginning, tentatively, to mend. The path ahead would be complex, legally and emotionally, but Nathaniel knew with absolute certainty that finding Leo, Clara's son, was the most important discovery of his life. He wouldn't waste this second chance. The legal process, accelerated by Nathaniel's resources and influence, moved with surprising speed. DNA tests confirmed Leo was Clara's son, making Nathaniel his closest living relative. Combined with Leo's status as an orphan minor who had fled an inadequate group home, and Mrs. Gable's tearful testimony about Martha's love for the boy and her own inability to care for him long-term, the court readily granted Nathaniel temporary, then permanent, legal guardianship. The adoption process was initiated simultaneously. For Leo, the legal papers meant less than the simple fact that Uncle Nathaniel wasn't sending him away. Transitioning from the streets to a life of structured comfort was not seamless. Leo was initially overwhelmed by the sheer stuff in his new life: drawers full of clean clothes, a refrigerator always stocked with food, a soft bed all to himself in a spacious room in Nathaniel's large but tastefully decorated house. Nathaniel had decided against the penthouse, opting for a comfortable home in a quieter neighborhood with a yard. He sometimes hoarded food instinctively or startled at unexpected noises. Sleeping indoors felt strange at first. He missed the familiar, albeit dangerous, rhythm of the city night. Nathaniel, guided by child psychologists specializing in trauma and loss whom he consulted discreetly, approached Leo's adjustment with patience and understanding. He established clear routines to create a sense of security, but allowed Leo space and time to adapt at his own pace. He didn't push Leo to talk about his experiences on the street unless the boy initiated it, focusing instead on building positive new experiences. He enrolled Leo in a small, well-regarded private school known for its supportive environment, ensuring the administration was aware of Leo's background, without revealing the heart connection publicly, to provide appropriate academic and emotional support. Helping Leo with homework became a nightly ritual. Nathaniel, rediscovering subjects he hadn't thought about in decades, patiently explained fractions, historical events, and the intricacies of grammar, finding unexpected joy in Leo's quick, curious mind. He learned that Leo, like Clara, had a natural talent for art and quickly supplied him with sketch pads, paints, and eventually arranged for private lessons with a kind local artist. They explored Los Angeles together on weekends, not the glitzy, high-society spots Nathaniel usually frequented, but places a 12-year-old might enjoy. The Griffith Observatory, the Natural History Museum, afternoons at Santa Monica Pier, hiking trails in the nearby mountains. During these outings, conversation flowed more easily. Leo started asking questions about Clara's childhood, about the Hart family. Nathaniel answered carefully, shielding Leo from the worst of the past conflict for now, and about Nathaniel's own life. Nathaniel, in turn, learned more about Leo's resilience, his sharp observations about people, his quiet humor, and his deep, enduring love for the mother he had lost. Nathaniel shared more stories about Clara, her stubborn independence, her infectious laugh, her determination to live life on her own terms. He showed Leo more photographs, including some of Clara painting in her college studio. Seeing these images, hearing these stories, helped Leo connect with a mother he remembered, fleshing out her memory beyond just the hardship he had witnessed in her final years. It also helped him understand the complex family dynamics that had led to their separation. There were still difficult moments. Leo had occasional nightmares or bouts of withdrawn silence. He sometimes tested Nathaniel's boundaries, perhaps subconsciously checking if this newfound stability was real, if this uncle would also leave him. Nathaniel met these moments not with anger, but with consistent reassurance, calm consequences when necessary, and unwavering affection. He was learning day by day the demanding, frustrating, and profoundly rewarding reality of parenthood. He found himself canceling international trips, leaving board meetings early, prioritizing Leo's school events or art lessons over lucrative deals. His executive team at Hart Properties noted the change. The boss seemed less driven by work alone. Perhaps happier? Nathaniel realized, with some surprise, that they were right. The relentless pursuit of wealth that had defined his adult life now felt secondary. Filling the void left by Clara hadn't come from acquiring more buildings, but from connecting with her son, from building a family. One evening, after Nathaniel had tucked Leo into bed, Leo called him back. "Uncle Nathaniel?" "Yes, Leo. My mom, she used to have this wallet like yours. She kept my picture in it." He paused. Do you think she kept it because she still liked you, even though you argued?" Nathaniel sat on the edge of the bed, his heart aching. "Oh, Leo," he said softly. "I don't know for sure, but I hope so. I know I never stopped loving her, even when we were angry, even when I didn't understand her choices." He gently smoothed Leo's hair. "What I do know is that she loved you more than anything in the world. She kept you safe, raised you on her own, protected you. That takes incredible love and strength." Leo nodded, seemingly satisfied. He closed his eyes. "Night, Uncle Nathaniel." "Good night, Leo," Nathaniel whispered, feeling a familiar mix of grief for his sister and overwhelming gratitude for the boy she had left behind. He was finally home. The finalization of the adoption paperwork, officially making Leo Hart his son in the eyes of the law, felt less like a culmination and more like a formal acknowledgement of the bond that had already formed. Life settled into a new normal, a rhythm defined by school days, art lessons, homework battles, weekend explorations, and the quiet comfort of shared meals and evening conversations. Leo, nurtured by stability, consistent love, and professional counseling Nathaniel had arranged to help him process his grief and trauma, began to shed the ingrained wariness of the street. He made friends at school, excelled in his art classes, and slowly, tentatively began to trust that this new life, this family, was real and permanent. He still missed Clara terribly, especially on birthdays or holidays, but the sharp edges of his grief were softened by Nathaniel's steady presence and their shared memories. They established rituals, like visiting Clara's favorite spot in the botanical gardens on her birthday, or looking through her old sketchbooks together, celebrating her life rather than just mourning her loss. Nathaniel, in turn, found his world irrevocably changed. The relentless drive that had built Hart Properties was now tempered by a deeper sense of purpose. While he remained a sharp businessman, his priorities had shifted. He delegated more, traveled less, and guarded his time with Leo fiercely. He discovered a previously untapped wellspring of patience and affection within himself. Raising Leo wasn't just a responsibility. It was a joy, a privilege, a second chance he hadn't known he needed. Remembering Clara's struggles and Leo's ordeal, Nathaniel felt compelled to act on a larger scale. He established the Clara's Legacy Foundation, endowing it generously through Heart Properties. Its mission was clear: to provide support, shelter, education, and transitional services for homeless and at-risk youth in Los Angeles and eventually beyond, with a special focus on keeping sibling groups together and providing creative arts programs, a direct nod to Clara's passion. He didn't just fund it. He became actively involved, bringing his business acumen to the nonprofit world. And he involved Leo. When the foundation opened its first transitional housing center for homeless teens, a warm, supportive place starkly different from the institutional group home Leo had briefly endured, 12-year-old Leo stood beside Nathaniel at the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Initially nervous, Leo spoke briefly, his voice quiet but clear, about how much a safe place and someone believing in you can mean. His simple words resonated powerfully, lending authenticity and heart to the foundation's mission. Seeing Leo find his voice, channeling his own difficult past into advocacy for others, filled Nathaniel with immense pride. This, he realized, was Clara's true legacy, not just in the foundation bearing her name, but in the resilient, compassionate, talented boy she had raised against all odds. One evening, they were sitting in the den, Leo sketching intently while Nathaniel reviewed some foundation proposals. An old framed photograph sat on the side table, Nathaniel and Clara as teenagers, laughing, arms slung around each other's shoulders, before the weight of family expectations had intervened. Leo looked up from his sketch pad, his gaze falling on the photo. "She looks happy there," he observed quietly. "Like in the picture I have." He paused. Do you think she knows? That we found each other? That things are okay now?" Nathaniel set aside his papers, his heart full. He looked at Leo, no longer the scared rag boy from the street, but a thoughtful, healing young man finding his place in the world. "I believe she does, Leo," he said sincerely. "I believe she knows you're safe, you're loved, and that you're going to do amazing things. Just like she always knew you would." He reached over and put his arm around his nephew, his son. "Your mother would be so incredibly proud of the young man you're becoming." And his voice thickened, "I will spend the rest of my life trying to be the family she deserved, making up for the time we lost, honoring her memory by cherishing you." Leo leaned into the embrace, a comfortable silence settling between them. The pain of the past hadn't vanished entirely. Grief and regret leave their scars, but it no longer defined them. From the simple, honest act of returning a lost wallet, a new future had emerged. Leo had found not just an uncle, but a father, a home, and a purpose. Nathaniel had found not just a nephew, but redemption, unconditional love, and the missing piece of his own fractured heart. Together, they were living proof that even from profound loss, family can be rediscovered, and love, in its many forms, endures, creating a legacy brighter than any fortune.